Hey Mob, time for a sacred yarn, time for some truth telling, and time for some sharing and wisdom. Want to acknowledge and pay respects to Latchi Mob and their ancestors and the country that I'm on, and share a very vulnerable space that I've been making space for in my own experience. Why do I know what to do and yet I'm not taking action? The sacred place between what we know and what we live, and the complexity that can sit within us when we know we need to do something different. We are called to evolve, to shed, to transform, whatever your thing is. And yet how we are living, we are choosing old patterns, old ways of being, old ways of believing that are in conflict with what we know that we need to do next to create change. So why do I know what to do, yet I haven't been able to make that move from knowing to being and doing? And knowing that the shame, the guilt, the way I've been beating myself up, the way that I don't trust or respect myself, and thinking that I should be able to do more, yet the beating myself up, these yarns, it's not shifting or changing anything. So I'm approaching this from a different perspective and a different approach, more from a place of love and meeting myself and creating space for sacred yarns and sacred reflections to create the shift, because what I've done in the past isn't working. So I have to try something new, because this is a sacred ache, the sacred ache between what my soul, what my spirit knows to be true, yet my mind and my actions aren't weaving that into how I live and how I show up. I know my truth, I know my power, and yet I'm still showing up from old patterns and old beliefs. Why? And this isn't something new, it's something old that I've known. I've lived on the edges of my power. I've never fully let the embers die of what I know to be true, like my fire that has called me forth, yet I've never allowed my river to flow or my fire to fully burn. It's like I've just allowed a trickle and an ember to keep me going, but for whatever reason I didn't believe I was good enough, that I was allowed, or that it was safe to step fully into the sacred space of bridging and weaving knowing into being and doing. And that's what I want to yarn with you about today. And this isn't about weakness. I'm reframing this from beating myself up, that it's self-sabotage, that it's weakness, that it's laziness, that it's that I don't really want it, because I know that's not true. And what I've realized with sitting with this and creating space is that it was about protection. It was about keeping myself safe. A past self, a past version, or a past moment of myself where I stood up and my warrior heart spoke and I shared myself with my world. Something happened that made me realize that it wasn't safe to be myself. I wasn't allowed, it wasn't safe, or I was too much. And by being myself, I would be abandoned, I would be harmed, or I would be belittled. So I hid that part of myself. So I'm reframing this from being lazy to sacred self-protection. So I've kept enough of that part of myself alive to keep me going and to keep it on the edges of my life and what's available, but not enough to breathe full life and full fire into it. And that's what I'm sitting with today, is how do I start to create space for that gap? How do I create safety within myself and trust within myself that I can do this, that I'm no longer that version of myself, that I'm capable of protecting that past version of myself, and that it's safe. I have everything I need. I have my ancestors. I have all of the wisdom and all of the experiences that have carried me to this version of me. Chantel at 41, as a mum of 5, as a single mum, as the founder of Kilana, as the journey to black belt, the Bakanji warrior heart, all of the elements that I weave together in my day-to-day, all the dreams that I might not have progressed as far as I've wanted, and I might not have fully stepped into my power, and yet the moments when I said yes, the moments when I wove it together, and the moments that I did open up that fire. I fueled the fire and I opened up the flow to create the river. The moments have been deeply transformational and powerful. Those are the moments that I said yes to my babies, the moments that I said yes to jiu-jitsu and went on the journey to win 3 world titles, the moments I said yes to sharing my story, the moments I said yes to starting Kililana. And each of the stages when it got to a point of, if I don't do something now, I'm going to stay stuck. And I got up and I fought and I said yes. And I want more of that. I want to nurture myself through that discomfort so that the gaps become smaller, the threads become stronger. And slowly over time, I will become that version in its fullness, in a full embodiment of the full Bakanji warrior heart, not just a shadow, not just a trickle, not just an ember, but a full river, a full fire, and full sovereignty and self-determination in my dreaming and how I show up to live, love, lead, serve, dream, and build a legacy, and weaving myself into all of those parts without self-abandonment and without burnout. So here's what I want to honor to be true. I've never quit. I might have stopped. I might have made mistakes. I might have thought that I quit, but when it really comes down to quitting and never picking up the dream again, that's never been true. And I'm moving from sacred protection to sovereign embodiment. And I'm going to weave those two together until they become such a strong thread that my nervous system, my spirit, and my life do not know the difference. That my sacred self-protection becomes sacred embodiment. That anything less than that, anything less than my full power and my full flow is the danger, is the risk. It's flipping the narrative. It's reframing the experience at a nervous system, at a soul level, so that when I step into that in a physical level, in a conscious level, it is doing so grounded from that sacred soul, spirit, ancestral level. And it's not about doing it all at once. It's about going all in, but allowing it to flow trickle by trickle, step by step, thread by thread, to sovereign embodiment, to ignited, aligned vision and dreaming, so that this becomes a path forward. Because I've realized and willing to accept that just because I know doesn't mean I can do and be. Because there's something there that's blocking me, and there's things that I've known for decades but have not been able to embody and do. And beating myself up, avoiding, playing small, saying, well, this is as good as it's going to get, is not serving me, and it's not something I'm willing to settle for. The next level is that I'm ready to unlock that level, and what I've done in the past isn't working. So this is about meeting myself, creating time for sacred ceremony and reflection in my day, and it's creating alignment in micro moments, micro steps that honor my well-being, that honor my boundaries and honor my dreaming. So I'm taking daily one action to honor my well-being, whether that's journaling, gentle movement, dreaming, meditation, whatever it is. 2, what is one sacred action that I can do to align myself to my dreaming and my bigger calling, so that in that space I'm building self-trust and self-respect. I'm creating capacity for the flow to come. I'm feeding the fire so that it can burn from a place of continuous embers and fuel. And then what is one sacred boundary that I'm going to put in place, whether it's with myself or the world or my trauma and my pain and my fears, that allow me to protect my time, my energy, and my space, and to build that conviction and that clarity for what is next. Because healing will come with movement, and clarity comes with movement as well. So this is for anyone that has known for a really long time, but hasn't moved into embodiment of being and doing. Instead of beating yourself up, create some space to sit and go, what do you need to do to bridge from sacred protection to sovereign embodiment, to move from knowing to being and doing? It's never too late, you mob. Big love, Bakanji warrior, warrior heart.